Welcome, friends, to the Here I Go Again podcast, where we discuss life, faith, politics, and a whole lot more. I'm your host, Rob Standridge, and I'm glad you're joining us today. So with that, here we go. Welcome to the Here I Go Again podcast. This is our episode number 17, right, Holly? 17. And my good friend Jake Merrick is here. Usually, Jake, I turn it right over to you, but I'm going to give a couple plugs here and teasers because I got a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I visited with you over coffee earlier this week. We talked about a couple really awesome things you're doing. One of them you kind of already put out a video, but we'll talk about that, a little endorsement you might have made. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about a new project that just blew me away when you told me about it, Jake. Honestly, this thing is, I think, going to be huge, like Trump huge. This is going to be, it's going to be big.
It's the best.
It's the best. It's the best. It's the best. Not China. It's the best.
That's right.
So it's going to be big. I want to talk to you about the upcoming runoff. I mean, we have several elections across the state. You, as a former gubernatorial candidate, know well about that. But we have that. We have our time in the Senate together. That may actually be shadowed by these other things. I thought that might be one of our hottest topics, but maybe that will get shadowed a little bit by your other stuff. And just talk about, one thing we touched about is education, your new project, how you want to do in that. And I think you got a little feel for me that that's somewhere in my heart as well. And so with all of that said, we really teed you up. So
right.
Let us know how it's going. How's the family doing? How's life for you these days, Jay?
Oh, wow, man. Yeah, so much to cover.
Yeah.
But we're in a great spot. Of course, it's always a swirl after an election. And this was my first statewide election, and it just consumes you. I mean, you put on the blinders, and it's all you do 24/7. And then if you don't win, it's over.
Yeah,
all of a sudden overnight,
right.
And it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? And there's just, I reached out to a few others that were, running for a Senate seat and a House seat, and same kind of idea. It's just more local, more focused on a district, but same swirl after the election,
right.
Like. What do I do now?
Yeah. Well, and I do want to say, one of the first things I told you when we met for coffee the other day was congratulations. I think it took you by surprise, maybe a little bit, but you outperformed every metric, every prediction ever. And so and you're using that as leverage to do something like we're going to talk about here,
right.
Something huge. I think that's what a lot of candidates, they lose. It sounds such a negative word.
Right.
But politics is such a different kind of battle.
It is.
So losing isn't always losing. And what you, I think, of trying to do here is take a loss. Take all those supporters and people that followed you and love you and wanted you to be governor. Take that and say, listen, I'm going to use this loss and do something special. So anyway, I don't want to blow it away. But
No.
So,
maybe a better word is those that advance. I mean, there are those that,
there we go.
Those
well, we want to get politically correct. What is that? Outcome based politics.
There you go.
Outcome based.
Yeah, because
everybody gets a trophy, right?
That's right. We really don't feel like it was a loss. We feel like we accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish besides actually winning.
Right.
But we challenged the status quo. We challenged the big money. We challenged the way everyone runs for office typically. And said, we want to challenge the influence of big money and special interests. That was the whole point behind mine, and prioritize the people and their voice.
Yeah.
That's the common theme across the state is people feel like their voice has been diminished and ignored, and especially people in rural Oklahoma. They believe that the metros, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, dominate the state, and to a certain extent that's true. And so we want to go out, prioritize them, say your voice does matter. And the way I did that was say, I'm not taking money from anybody but you. You alone will fund my campaign. And if you don't show up, we don't win. Don't
advance.
I don't advance. Right, exactly. I don't. Yeah. And so, part of that was, I said, in order to accomplish this monumental goal, I have to work 10 times harder. So,
and you did.
One of the things I did is I literally ran Route 66 across the state. A lot of times it was off the radar for a lot of people. I started March 2nd. I finished May 6th, ran 386 miles, and engaged with so many people along the way. Met business owners, prayed with people. People would stop me on the way and say, "What are you doing?" And I would explain what I'm doing. And so we got a lot of exposure that way. But the point was to connect with the people and to really give the people a voice. And we did that. I think that if I had another month left, people start becoming aware that there even is an election about a week from the election. So that's where the money comes in, is the exposure and the ads and the mailers to let people know you're even a contender. But we started to get real momentum the last couple of weeks, and we're like, man, if we had another month, we think we could have pulled this off. But nonetheless, we had almost 60,000 votes, came in fourth, came ahead of Charles McCall, who put a lot of money in.
Former speaker, both of you, sir.
Former speaker, and then was right on the heels of Chip Keating. So we were a contender right there in the mix. And that alone was a huge accomplishment we're proud of.
Yeah, and a good friend of ours, Dan Fisher, ran a similar type campaign a number of years ago.
We had several conversations about it.
Really, and I love Dan. He did well.
He did.
But I think what you did was you took that and you added a lot more gasoline. You just really. And one thing that I think your new project that we're going to talk about, I see it as building on that. You're saying, okay, the voters that had the time to listen to me and learn about me, they came out and voted for you. But a lot of people don't have time. Maybe they subscribe to The Blaze, where they learn about national elections, what's going on in Kentucky. But that doesn't help them in Oklahoma.
No.
And we used to have the Mike McCarville report, which I thought was pretty good. Mike, I was very honored when he endorsed me, but we lost Mike. Thus, that kind of went away. And now we got a few things.
Yeah.
But voters don't have the time, or at least they don't think they have the time to do that. So that's your campaign. What were some, if you were to talk to either yourself or somebody else that's going to run the next cycle, what type of advice would you give them where you could have maybe even made more headway? Not that you didn't make huge, but make more.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a whole lot of what we did. I mean, of course, $1.37 per vote, which is what it came down to, compared to $100, $150, $200 per vote with the other candidates.
Okay.
So we stretched the dollar. We maximized every penny.
Yeah. How much did your campaign raise over that?
It was about $80,000.
$80,000. Okay.
$80,000. So statewide campaign for under $100,000.
Yeah.
It just required.
You should have got about 1%.
Yeah, right.
Or 0.5%.
Yeah, and everybody was saying he won't crack 5%.
Correct.
So we put in literally over 100,000 miles on our vehicles.
Really? Okay.
I mean, just burning the rubber, driving from one end of the state to the other. And so it was about connecting. But it wasn't just showing up. I mean, when you show up, you got to bring a message that resonates.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just being at 3 different locations in the same day. But when we got there, it was the message. And the message that resonated with the people was, I'm not taking special interest money. And
that I saw that as a common theme this cycle. Yes.
Yeah. And it's growing.
I don't know where that started. I mean, I think if you're out there and you're a new candidate, I think it's different. So you've experienced both, being in the legislature, raising money, and then being out to raise money as a fresh candidate for a governor's race. If you start taking a lot of special interest money, almost like it's earmarked. And so that's different. Now, I think that I've told some of these candidates, if they win, it's different once you win, because then you're already in. And so you probably need to loosen that restraint on yourself a little bit more. But I admire that.
There's a seed of doubt in the people. I would say more than a seed. People are leery. They're skeptical of politicians, obviously.
They should be.
Yeah, they should be. And I understand there's many people who are funded by really good PACs and good organizations. So there are good PACs and good organizations that fund good candidates. Yeah. But there's still that seed of doubt in the people but are they bought? And they may not be. They may be completely righteous and legit, but from the people's perspective, how do they know? And so I just wanted to remove all doubt. Right. And that was the big, bold move, is I'm going to remove all doubt, not taking any money from anybody but the people. Right. And so that was the message that resonated. And the purpose was to help restore confidence in the elected official, the elected representatives, that these people we are supposed to represent the people.
Yes.
And that is where we're breaking down, is people don't feel represented. They feel like they elect them, they go to the Capitol, and they never hear from them again. Because they then turn their attention, at least that's the perception, is now they turn their attention to the money that help fund their campaign.
Or getting money for their next campaign.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
So that was the message that resonated. And, there were many people who said, I swore off politics. I was never going to vote again, but I'm going to vote for you.
Yeah.
Because of that one principle alone.
So the asterisk to that to voters is, if and I say that collectively as leaders that run for office like yourself, if people like yourself are going to run for office and respect that, I think that is a wish of practically all, at least Republican voters, that you don't do that you don't take this outside interest money. If you're as a candidate going to respect that, which you did, the voters are going to have to contribute a little bit of time.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They're going to have to invest a little bit more time, because without the money, you can't send them 5 postcards in the last week tell them how trashy your opponent is.
Yeah.
And so
you're exactly right. It puts the responsibility back on the people.
It does.
And I said
so
this
it's a two-way street.
I said this across the state. I said, this is not my campaign.
Yeah.
This is your campaign.
Right.
I'm becoming the face of it, but it is truly your campaign.
Yeah.
It's going to require you to rise up. So we actually started this whole campaign effort with events called Oklahoma Rising. And that was the point, and there was a huge emphasis on faith, about returning back to God. I believe we have to have a great awakening, a revival, a reformation.
No
so, transformation in politics is not going to just happen. It's going to be a result of what's happening out here in the culture. And so that's how we started the campaign, is going to the people, calling them to rise, calling the pastors to engage again. And that's what made this country great in the beginning, is the foundation of faith. I always say that I serve a big God so I can have a small government.
Yeah,
and
true.
And I always,
it's what our founders thought.
It's what they thought. Of course, I quote John Adams. A lot of people do, that he says our Constitution was written only for a moral and religious people.
True.
That it's wholly inadequate for the governance of any other.
Yes.
That it actually does not work where men don't fear God.
Yeah.
Because when you fear God, you don't need a law. You're going to do it because you're ultimately accountable to God. You're going to do what's right.
Right.
And so then that's where you can have maximized freedom, is whenever you have people who have morals and religion and a fear of God. Then you have maximized freedom. But whenever you have people who don't fear God, and everyone does what is right in their own eyes, just like the Bible says, then all of a sudden the government has to become more involved to restrain evil. And keep criminals from doing bad things.
And we have government for that purpose. And look at Timothy and Corinthians, look at Paul's words. You have leadership, you have governance,
right,
partly for that reason. And this is a disconnect, I think, with Christians, to be honest with you, with good, strong Christian and other folks of strong belief, that somehow, some way, government is evil. Thus, I'm going to keep my distance.
Yeah.
We have some that refuse to vote purely for religious reasons, which I disagree with that.
Yeah.
But we have some that restrain themselves from even learning or doing something because they think, well, that's evil. That's a bad part. And they do see a lot of bad in it.
Yeah.
But they can fix that. Just like Paul directs us, they can fix that by saying, I want to vet my leaders. Yeah. I want to figure out, like they did in your campaign, let's pay more attention.
Yeah. Well, this is turning the Titanic. Yeah. It's a massive ship that has to be turned. It's going to turn slowly and gradually. But, my campaign, for instance, we made progress. We showed what is possible. We can't let our foot off the gas. Right. We've got to continue the next election cycle. Many people already have said, oh, he lost, I'm giving up. No, don't give up.
Right.
Now's the time to push in. We actually made progress. We didn't win, but maybe next time. And if we just keep on incrementally making progress, we're going to succeed.
I agree. And in making lemonade out of lemons is exactly what you're doing in this instance. And so we want to get to that. So you just quickly to cover the time we served. So it was a short time. So you were in the Senate remind me what you came in midterm.
21 and 22.
21 and 22.
Yeah, the remainder of Stephanie Bice's term.
That's right. When she ran for Congress and is still in Congress. I
Yeah.
served with Senator Bice and now Congresswoman Bice. But and that's great that we have a Republican in that seat that was formerly a Democrat seat for quite some time. So you ran to fill her seat. You were in there 2 years. I remember like yesterday knocking for you both in some really high rent areas and some medium income. You had a very diverse district. And at the time I was, to be honest with you, I don't know where you were mentally. We didn't visit that much because you're busy trying to win your seat. I was discouraged. And so I do, like any human, get a little discouraged when you think you're losing. Because, I mean, I'm knocking doors for you and I don't feel they love you, but it wasn't there. They've been bashing you so hard. And this isn't a condemnation of your person that beat you. Right. I'm just saying that's politics. It's not right. We should
You're talking about in the re-election.
In the re-election, I mean, they just beat the crud out of you, and so I would hear that on a lot of the doorsteps. It was very discouraging to me as somebody that very desperately wanted you to come back.
I mean, that I point to the influence of dark money in that.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, obviously there's. I think at that time, I don't know where we're at now, but at that time, it was the most dark money spent against a sitting senator.
Oh, I didn't know
Oklahoma.
That. Not surprised.
I think $350,000. I raised about $40,000 compared to $350,000. And so again, just inundating the district with negative ads on me. Jake the Fake was circulating. Me next to teacher unions and even next to Joe Biden. I mean, just the most bizarre. Everybody in the Senate and in my district knew I was very, very conservative. Right. Among the most conservative in the Senate.
But of all things, they painted you as the opposite.
Well, I voted against several abortion bills, pro-life bills, because I took the abolitionist stance, and so I was pushing not to incrementally end abortion, but to just absolutely end abortion. So that position says, we're not satisfied with saving a few more lives when we could save them all.
Right.
So it was an extreme position, and so I voted against many pro-life bills to say, hey, we need to go ahead and end this completely. Now, what that looks like to the public is, well, you voted against a pro-life bill.
Right, and they use that, and they use that against you. And I just wish, like we talked about earlier, that voters would, if they would just discard all of that. It's usually in smaller races like that, it's all mail pieces. I would say take them all, burn them. Don't even read them. Don't look at them. And I'm not saying they're wrong. Because even candidates themselves. You're going to build you're not going to tell them that, you had a drug problem 10 years ago. That's not going to be on your mailer. It's only going to be the positive stuff. And so even the candidates themselves tend to knock the other guy too much and praise themselves too much.
I mean,
so you're almost better off doing that. Go to the websites, allocate like an hour before the election or maybe an hour and a half. Just to go online.
Or show up to just one event.
One event.
And go shake their hand and ask them a question. Get to know the candidate.
That would be even better. I don't know if we can get that many people to do that. But if we could get them to go online, go to social media, and just try to don't look at the big things. Right. Look at the little things.
Well, the only reason those mailers work is because of the general ignorance of our society. And the apathy, the disconnect. And so people are just tired and they're like, a mailer does have some measure of influence, as does a TV ad.
It's huge. I think the mailers are even more. I mean, I think it's guilty until proven innocent for politicians, and that's because politicians have, unfortunately, because there's a lot of good people. We talk about the bad, but there's actually a lot of good people. Even if we disagree with them, there's a lot of good people. A lot of good people there. And some of them aren't exactly who they say they are, but is anybody? So everybody is guilty of doing that. But so what I was kind of getting to is I was very discouraged because I still think the world of you, and I absolutely thought you were an amazing senator. So I really wanted you back, like a lot of your supporters. So I think maybe in this cycle, you're talking about lemonade out of lemons. Talk for a minute about this idea, like I had. I'm discouraged. Jake's done. He's finished up. What is he going to do now? He's going to go to greener pastures. Right. So some of your supporters probably are right now where I was, thinking, he's done. He's finished. I'm done voting. My guy didn't win. But we can't do that. We can't give up as voters We have to find out. It's not the lesser of two evils, by the way. I mean, I'm not just talking about the governor's race. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm just talking about in general.
Right.
You can find something decent, usually.
Yeah.
So talk for a minute to your supporters about this idea of staying engaged.
Yeah. Well, we have to lead by example. And so...
And you're the one that lost.
Right. It would be very easy for me to just ride off from the sunset, say, okay,
right.
My heart is ministry. My heart is, I would rather just spend all my days preaching and teaching, making disciples, teaching at a university like I did before. I love that.
Yeah.
Engaging with people on a one-on-one. I love it. I don't have to have the spotlight. I prefer to just be with people out of the limelight. But that's not the day we're in, and that's not where I'm at. And it's going to require leadership. And so I just stop and I recognize where I'm at, and I recognize what I see God doing in the state and the path he's had me on, where I end up today and what is required of me next. You have to, the heart of following Christ is first dying to yourself. So first we have to die to our own feelings, our thoughts. It really doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter how you feel. What is God doing and what is your role in that?
Right.
So that's where I live my life.
Humble
yourself, exactly, and just submit to him and his plan, not yours. So, like I said, if it was my plan, I would rather do ministry and train horses. Just
that sounds kind of fun.
I mean, my wife and I, when we have a day to finally go like mow the lawn and pick weeds and feed the chickens, we're like, we'd rather do this every day.
Right.
But
for me, it's boating or fishing or something.
Right.
Yeah, for everybody, it's something. Right.
And even George Washington, that's what he wanted.
Oh, yeah.
He just wanted to go to Mount Vernon.
That's right.
and just tend to his farm.
And it's not just we think that. He said that. He wrote that.
Yeah. But time and time again, he was called away.
Right.
And after serving one term, he wanted to go back, and he needed one more.
Yeah.
So it's just what is the duty that is on us, required of us. And the duty right now required of me is to continue this movement that we started in this campaign. Actually, it started back with the Senate race. After I lost that re-election, I was offered the radio show.
Which I loved, your radio show.
And I loved it too. It was hard to walk away from. But it was just getting momentum and building when I had to walk away because God was calling me to run for governor.
Yeah.
Why? Well, I think we're starting to understand why. I didn't win, but we made a massive impact. We rallied people across the state, what I believe is a true movement. And we don't just walk away from that. When things are moving like we saw this last year, is what do we do with that? Well, I want to keep people connected, engaged, and say, now if we continue doing this, we have a real chance to turn this ship and change things not only in Oklahoma, but to set a precedent for the nation. I think it could be something that influences the nation. So, I know we want to get into what I'm jumping into next, but all this ties together.
Let's go. This ties it in.
It does.
I mean, when I jokingly said Trump huge, I mean, I hear a lot of ideas. I'm a business guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you walk through one of my offices coming here, I'm a business guy. I get pitched tons of ideas over the years, tons. And some of them I like, some of them I don't, some of them I invest in, some of them I don't. And in politics, you hear tons of ideas.
Yeah.
When we sat down for coffee the other day, I thought, because I didn't know anything about what you were going to tell me about. And so I sat there thinking, this is maybe another idea. Jake's going to do another radio show or something.
Right.
But this concept that you have, I mean, it's not first of its kind.
Right.
What I love about it is, one, your heart, and the fact that you are focusing on us, on Oklahoma, the people you touched.
Yeah.
You're not going on to be a national syndicated talk show host.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys would use what you've done and catapult themselves into money. Mm-hmm. And so you specifically told me and showed me that that's not the goal. So let's do it.
Okay.
Let's open up the box. Let's talk about this new project. It is. I think it's going to be. My gut tells me it's going to be huge.
Mm.
So
I believe so because it's so needed. We homeschool our kids, and I'm taking them through an entrepreneurial course that I wrote. And so I put together a curriculum to teach them about starting a business. Well, where does a business start? It starts with recognizing a need.
Right.
filling a need. And so it's not just look at me, it's saying, how can I serve? And the better you serve, the more valuable you become. So in my time on radio, 2.5 years on air, I'm looking every single day, preparing for my show, scouring the internet, looking for content to talk about.
Right.
And where do you go? Well, all of the top resources we have are very liberal. They're owned by liberal companies. They're written by liberal journalists and columnists. Their take on flock cameras is going to be radically different than mine and a lot of people. Their take on vaccinations,
definitely.
There's just a long list of issues. We start addressing them, and what you read in our mainstream media here in Oklahoma is largely left-leaning, and their take on homelessness in Norman. Yeah. What's happening in our universities in general, in public school. Right. All of this is going to be very different from the typical conservative, which I believe is the majority across the state still.
Oh, I think absolutely. I don't even think it's moderate conservative. I think they're all fascist, to quote Gettner Drummond. So they're all conservative, freedom-minded, Christian, not all church-going, but all church-loving, all brotherly loving. And we'll get into this because this comment by a candidate for governor just gets under my skin. But anyway, but you're right. I would say, you can go to the urban areas and say, well, we got a lot of whatevers you hear, but over the state, including metro areas, the majority is this.
It is. It was only confirmed in my statewide campaign. Yeah. I'm going across the state, and they're just like me.
Yeah. And if the other 80% would have took the time to research, you'd have got all their votes, 100%. Or most of their votes.
Most of them. So it was only confirmed, and when I was on the radio, I started to discover some investigative journalists, some columnists that were writing really good stuff, but they were tucked away in the corners of the internet. They had great Substack articles.
We talked about this. That nobody reads them.
Right.
Please forgive me, but unless somebody sends it to me, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I could be doing it wrong, so I welcome feedback on how I'm doing it wrong. But and I'll read them if they send them to me. Yeah. But I don't have the time to go out and.
Where do you find them? Right.
I have I don't even know.
Yeah.
If somebody sends it to me, I'll click on it and then I can read it. And I'm pretty tech savvy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I routinely am sent different things, or I come across different. And I'm like, well, that's good. Who is this person?
Right. Yeah.
I never knew about him before.
Well, you mentioned Jason Murphy, right?
Jason Murphy.
Several people send me some of his stuff. I love what he writes.
Oh yeah. He has. I think I'm right on this. I think the highest conservative rating than any other representative in Oklahoma.
Well, except for Merrick and Standridge, I think you're right.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
but he did really well. To get third place was good for him.
Right. He's doing great things in the state.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Marvin Goodman, Katie Smith, Everett Piper. These are some voices that I started listening to and reading their stuff, and I'm like, man, they're saying really good stuff, covering issues that we care about here in Oklahoma from our conservative perspective. And I began to use them as my sources on the radio. I would cover their content, bring them on as guests, and the reception from the audience, my audience, was, hey, we need more of that.
Yeah.
So the seeds of this new project were started back then in the radio, saying we need to have a place where we can bring all of these voices together so they're easier to find. And I always use the saying, a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
That if, somebody may come there for Jason Murphy's article, but then they discover Katie Smith and all of the deep dives she's written about concerning the corruption in DHS and child welfare. Multi-part series laying out all of the receipts and all of the evidence. You don't get that in your daily news. And most of the people listening right now aren't even aware of who I'm talking about.
To be honest with you, all due respect,
yeah.
I'm not aware either.
Perfect example. Right. But putting out some of the best content and doing the needed hard work of investigation. So I'm like, well, these people need to be heard. And then there's voices like yours and others that have active podcasts that are doing great things, interviewing great guests, but need more exposure.
Right.
I consider you one of the leading conservative voices right now in Oklahoma. More people need to hear you and the guests you interview. Yeah. So this has come full circle. Now when I finish the race, I'm looking at the connections we've made, all of the progress we made in motivating people and engaging people. And I'm like, we're not going to stop this. And I knew it was time to return back to this vision God gave me a year ago, which was creating this hub for conservative news in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma.
You know, a couple of models I love that I think are very effective are what Glenn Beck did with the Blaze.
Yeah.
What Ben Shapiro did with the Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. My daughter and I were talking about that this morning.
Yeah. I talked to a man the other day, and he said he discovered Jordan Peterson through the Daily Wire. He became he signed up for the Daily Wire, and then he discovered these amazing voices like Matt Walsh and Jordan Peterson, and you know.
I could see Jordan Peterson at one time being a Substack type guy.
Oh, right.
Because he's so thorough.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I
mean, he's putting out great stuff on his own, has his own platform, his own notoriety.
Right.
But together with this team of leaders and voices, now more people are exposed to it.
Now the other 90% of conservatives are exposed.
Yeah. And then on top of that, when I see the Daily Wire doing great things like documentaries and even full-length movies and short stories and series like Matt Walsh is doing right now with American history.
I saw that. Well, I think right now the WNBA is in a conclave right now watching What is a Woman by Matt Walsh because they're trying to figure it out.
Right.
And so that's a good movie. I think they're having movie time right now.
So that's
serving popcorn.
That's a great example because it's a direct impact on culture.
It is.
He's commenting on culture, but it's also impacting culture, which is
brilliant.
It is. It's great. And then of course, with Glenn Beck and what he does with bringing the voices together, the various podcasts, the radio portion, the daily news segments, all of these things. So I'm like, we need that for Oklahoma.
So, I mean, you could go to the Blaze and Daily Wire. I subscribe currently to Daily Wire, but I've let my Blaze. I need to re-up that one because I was a subscriber for a long time. But I love the Daily Wire. And I go there, but I really don't. I go there to be informed, but not. I never think about Oklahoma because I'm going to find something there about Rand Paul or Trump or something. I'm not going to go there and find anything about Jake Merrick's gubernatorial race. I'm not going to find anything about our good friend Dana Prieto that's running the Senate race in Owasso or whatever. You're not going to learn about that.
Yeah.
We need something. Somebody willing to take the kind of capital you have and do something for Oklahoma.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that through this, it becomes a tool for conservatives to counter the big dark money and the lies and all of these things that are quieting the conservative voices and silencing them. I mean, you mentioned Dana Prieto, good friend of mine out in Owasso, strong conservative, standing and fighting for reform in DHS, which is something close to my heart.
Yeah, I knew
that.
Yeah.
I mean, he needs more exposure. He needs to win this race.
Yeah.
Because he is the conservative pick out there. And so just one example of how we can get behind the right candidates, the conservative candidates, get them exposure through various podcasts and platforms. But I call this the colony.
The colony. Okay. The colony. And you mentioned that to me the other morning, and I love it. Is there something that made you come up with that name, or is that it's a common sense now that I think about it? It's like a lot of things, you don't think they make sense until you hear it.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the original colonies,
right? Okay, is that where it comes from?
And what made this country great in the beginning?
Okay,
its foundation, its biblical worldview, the conservative principles, the limited government. Thinking about things like the Boston Tea Party and the revolt they had over a 2% tax.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that drove this revolution. What was that culture? What was it founded on? What made it great? So, and it goes beyond politics. It goes to the family unit, the nuclear family. Yeah. What does the culture? What does the culture need to look like?
All right.
Because as we say, politics is downstream from culture. So the colony is an attempt to influence all of that, to highlight the best of Oklahoma, the conservative voices, to bring to the surface and to the platform voices like yours, the ones we just mentioned, Jason Murphy, Katie Smith, Marvin Goodman, Everett Piper, even some new ones. I love
Everett Piper. I mentioned I didn't know, but he's a friend of mine. Does some great work. I need to have him on the podcast.
No, exactly.
I need to call him.
The Rebellion, his podcast. doing great things. Some new voices like Jaden Terrazas.
Oh yeah, gentleman that ran for office. Didn't win, but now he's gonna. And I'm sure his opponent, Bill Coleman. I served with him. Senator Coleman's a great guy.
Yep.
You look at those in the distance and you say, oh, it's two good candidates. Bill came out on top. But this guy is kind of like you're doing. He's going to move forward, right?
He's very, very.
His life is going to continue, right?
It is. He's very principled. And on the campaign trail, we crossed paths several times. And his presentation, his commitment to conservative biblical principles, Constitution, all of these things, I said, well, he understands. These aren't just talking points for him.
Yeah.
That's why he truly believes in his core. And so I reached out to him. He's going to be part of this. Others like my chiropractor, Dr. Jeremy Moss, an amazing leader in functional medicine.
Okay.
So he wants to bring that to the forefront about how do we become healthy as a state.
When we met for coffee, what morning was that? Wednesday morning, I think. Anyway, the guy I was talking to before he came out there, he's a chiropractor friend, and he was studying, what is the alpha-gal? How he can use... I'll throw his name out there, Bill Sparks. Jeremy, maybe Jeremy's looking at this too. But these conditions like this, a lot of other medical professionals aren't willing to deal with too much. Chiropractors are willing to dig into that and find some alternative, whether it's acupuncture or chiropractic or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So Dr. Moss and these guys, I'm impressed by them.
With the leadership right now of RFK. The Maha movement and now the Moha movement. Yeah. The move away from the toxins in our foods.
Liza Grieve, the Moha movement. Yeah.
And with this is the return back to agriculture and prioritizing homegrown food.
Right. Getting all those foreign materials out.
Exactly. Let's buy Oklahoma beef, Oklahoma pork. Let's buy Oklahoma produce.
Oh, the colony could be some of that too, right?
It is.
Nutrition. This is something that's a passion of yours, is nutrition, cooking right, using the right things. So you told me that this may also be a part of the colony. So it's not just, it's not going to be boring politics all the time, because in December through February, people aren't really that interested in politics. So let's go to nutrition. You talked about education. You want to, and again, these things are coming. The colony's probably going to start with these writers and podcasts, right?
Yeah. So we are assembling this team and getting the content ready. We want to bring original content you can't find anywhere else.
Right.
I will have my show, probably a couple of shows. I already have the Jake for the State podcast, so we'll continue the podcast. But then I'll also do a daily live show speaking on what's happening today. Where do you go to find the latest from a conservative perspective on what's happening with the smelter plant in Inola?
Right.
Or Smithfield pork out in the Panhandle.
Or these data centers.
The data centers. I have one 3 miles from my house over in Amber coming in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, craziness. But where do you go to find out more about it or hear the interviews? Well, this is going to be a place for that. And you're going to know it's coming from conservative voices that you can trust.
So you're going to talk about data centers, you're going to talk about smelter, you're going to talk about all these things.
Right.
And I assume these Substack type authors, a lot of these folks are probably writing this already, right?
They're already putting out great content.
Right.
Yeah. And so we're going to platform a lot of the stuff they're already writing and just give them more visibility.
Right.
Take people like you that are already producing a great podcast and just give you more exposure.
Right.
Others like Cody Elliott with the Frontier Mindset
podcast. Who got me started, by the way. I did his podcast, and people, sorry to digress again, but people had been encouraging me to do something.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a podcast, but what are you doing? It's always about running for office. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. You got to do that when God puts it on your heart, Jake. Yeah. I don't know about you. Now maybe if you got more money and you got sense, you can just run all the time. But usually I think you need God to put it on your heart. And I felt the opposite. Mm-hmm. Like nothing in me was driving me to run for anything.
Right.
And so people kept saying, but God put it on my heart to do something.
Right.
And
to
when
stay
I did
in the conversation.
Yeah. So when Cody called me and said, "Hey, Rob, you want to come on and do this?" I said, "Sure." I don't think I'd done a podcast per se.
Right.
So done radio shows with you and other stuff, but I really enjoyed it. Cody's an awesome dude.
Oh, he is.
He is awesome. He's so relaxing. He's so probably much better than me. He gets people relaxed, and we had a great conversation. Went on and on forever. And so anyway, so I went back and I told my wife, I told Lisa, I said, I think that's what I want to do. And so that's exactly when it started. And,
Right.
But anyway, so you can have Cody, Frontier Mindset, and you'd mentioned some others. Maybe we should tease a few others if you already have them lined up, if you want to.
Yeah, you know, Roberta Lewis, she ran for a House seat.
Oh, I knew the
out
name.
in the Shawnee area.
Yes, not far from here. Yeah.
And, you know, her inspiration for running was because of the impact from DHS. DHS, crazy story. She's going to be telling this, but her son was taken based on an accusation of a video that was never seen.
Is this the lady that our friend Shane Jett was
Yes.
involved in? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was Roberta Lewis. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, and so she is still dealing with the repercussions of this. Her son is now 18 and graduated, but you know, he was taken from her and put in a mental institute. You know, bypassing
Really?
all law.
Okay.
And so she's still dealing with this, but this has prompted her, as most people are, once the government comes knocking on your door and your constitutional rights are violated, all of a sudden you understand the importance of politics.
Yes.
And you get engaged. And so that's what got her engaged. That's why she ran for this seat. And what she saw when she ran was the lackadaisical attitude in her district, that people just didn't show up.
They don't, yeah.
So she's like, we have to get people fired up again. So that's why she's starting a podcast of her own, a show of her own.
Wow. Okay.
And we'll bring her on. I'm actually going to record with her today.
Oh, awesome.
And there's voices all over the state who are begging to be heard.
Oh, I agree.
You
I
know?
agree. Yeah.
And so one of the features of this whole platform is to give a place for all of these voices to tell their story. Maybe it's through an interview on one of our podcasts, or maybe it's helping them ramp up a show of their own, whatever it may be. But we want to give a place for their story to be heard across the state. One of the big features of this is local dispatches. So there'll be a map where you can select your county and it'll pop up what's happening.
Really?
Is there a burn ban? What's the score from last night's football game? You know, is there a town hall meeting scheduled? And then any other kind of breaking news that might be happening. So
this also, people could go to here just if they're, so it's more than just the Blaze, actually, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're going to have features that I don't think exist out there right now.
Okay.
And setting a new model because it's so locally focused.
Right.
And it's local, but it's also looking at the state. The idea of the colony, the original colony, was an independent sovereign state.
Sovereignty, yes.
You know,
yes.
where each state was its own nation, essentially.
Which is what the original articles did.
It was federalism, 13, you know.
13 countries that work together.
Exactly. The United States.
Right.
And we could go off on that about how that changed after the Civil War.
Right.
But I want to get back to that. And I think a lot of people are longing for that federalist model, the sovereignty of the state. How can we dictate our own future here in Oklahoma without be beholden to the federal government? So, you know, I'm passionate about that. And whatever happens nationally in our relationship with the federal government, we still need to know what's going on here. We still have to get involved in our local elections. We still need to be engaged in our family, in our community,
yes,
and change the culture. So I'm talking to some gentlemen about a hunting and fishing show.
Oh, cool.
You know?
Yeah.
You think about...
My son would love to be on that.
Right. Another guy who is passionate about racing. A lot of people don't know, but Oklahoma is a hub for like dirt track racing.
Oh, dirt track. I know we have Thunder Valley down south
right.
here for the drag racing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, okay.
You know, the what were they called? The Outlaws. What are they did Street Outlaws.
Oh, Street Outlaws. Okay.
You know, popular a few years ago.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, right.
But it kind of brought attention to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And a lot of them still live here. And it really stirred up this racing
I did not know
culture.
That. Okay. That sounds fun.
Yeah. And so there's these bubbles. Rodeo is another one. I grew up rodeoing.
I grew up watching rodeo and had friends in rodeo. I wasn't too much myself.
Right.
But I grew up out in the
we have
out in Roberta Lewis,
right? We have so many world champion rodeo competitors in Oklahoma.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it is a huge influence.
Absolutely.
You know, farming and ranching, we already mentioned. So we want to highlight the best of Oklahoma that's often overlooked. And it's going to be an exciting journey.
So when is it going to launch? I guess is the biggest question anybody's going to have. So and I do too. So do you have an official launch date or a soft launch date? What do you have?
It's moving up. I was hoping to launch a few weeks ago.
Okay.
But we want to do it right, and we want to get all of the content together, all the contributors together. But I know it's not going to be a finished product when we start.
Right. It's going to be, I would call it a soft launch maybe. So
yeah. So it could be as soon as next week.
Okay.
And my goal was the 1st of September.
Okay.
But I'm really wanting to get some of this content out before the runoff.
Okay.
And so we might
idea.
actually go ahead and get this thing going next week, maybe a week from now. We are putting out opportunities for people to become charter members.
Okay.
So there's 3 different levels.
I want to be
a
charter member.
Awesome.
So we talked about this the other day, and I told you, I said, I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about this. I want to be the first.
Okay.
Which I can't be. I know.
We can be the 7th. So
sign me up.
Okay.
Jake. I mean, I love the idea. I absolutely love it. And I mean, so when can people, so if it launches, because I know it's subscription based, which is dirt cheap, but so when it launches, let's say next week or September 1st, is it going to be, can they sign up then? Can they subscribe then? Or is all that waiting?
No, the website is built.
Okay.
It's all built. We actually overbuilt it, and then we scaled it back down.
Okay.
So that we can grow into it. But no, it's all built and ready to go. People can sign up today if they wanted to, but we'll hold off. I won't give the website link just yet.
Right.
But we may have to do an official launch interview or something like that.
Well, you know, if we do that, this show might sponsor some subscriptions for you, because we got to get this thing going, because it's not going to be successful unless you get a ton of subscribers.
Right.
Because I guarantee you, Glenn Beck said it back there, and all these guys are pushing the blaze on him back in the day. And he's like, well, yeah, that's great. But if we don't have subscribers, you know, we can't get any
That's
content.
kind of the whole point,
And so it's, do you have an official price yet for the subscription?
$4.99 is the launch price. The original price was set at $9.99.
So $5 a month if they do it. Do they pay it by the year or by the month?
You can do both, and there's a slight discount if you do an annual subscription.
So what would if it's $5 a month? How much is it if they pay for a year?
So for a year, I believe it is $50.
$50.
So a pretty good discount if you sign up for the year.
So if the Here I Go Again podcast were to sponsor people, I think we go and do a year. So yeah. So we'll think about that. But but I think my hope and prayer for this project. And I don't say prayer lightly, by the way. I don't do that very often. But I think this is kind of, as you can tell, it's really affected me. And I really love it. Awesome. And so I think my prayer is that next week, if you launch, you get 500 subscribers
100%.
By September 1st.
Yeah, I love
500.
it. I think it's completely. You know, I had 58,000 votes.
Yeah. How about 58,000 notice? Don't get carried away.
I'm throwing out. You know, this is completely in line with the movement that started through this campaign.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying those same people who cast their vote for me need to get on board with this. Here's the thing. There were 2 critical televised debates in the gubernatorial race.
Right.
One with Non-Doc and one with News 9. Okay. I was excluded from that based on, I believe, a frivolous poll. You know, it was done according to Non-Doc, a political science professor here in OU. They did a survey, a poll, 450 people polled. It did not survey rural Oklahoma, and at least not extensively. And so based on their polling, I was under double digits, and for that reason,
you had to be double digits
right,
to do
right.
And that was for both of those, right?
Well, News 9 actually used Non-Doc's poll for their justification.
I got you.
But here's my message, and I end up driving out there and setting up right outside the debate anyway. We pulled our big rig out there, and we had our own debate. I answered all the questions that they were asking them just outside.
But you didn't get the television.
I wasn't on the and so why are we as conservatives waiting to be invited to the dance? It's time we host our own party.
That's right.
We host our own,
and I appreciate Non-Doc is. I mean, I don't really get into with Trace left right stuff. I think Non-Doc does an exceptional job.
I think they are probably the best out
and
there.
They probably
currently
just used the wrong poll.
Yeah, I think so.
Clearly used the wrong poll because the proof is in the pudding, right?
Right.
Right. So if you'd have been on that you might not have won.
It's just more exposure.
It would have added 5 points to your
and
race,
because
probably.
I wasn't on that one, it justified News 9 excluding me from
Correct.
theirs, which was the most televised platform, right?
Yeah.
And so we need more exposure as conservatives across the board.
So the colony could begin hosting, but you have to have the television too.
Yeah.
So you got to have.
Well,
so hopefully by, let's say, the next cycle, there will be enough capacity there where you could actually get one of the news stations to televise it. That would be a goal.
What we saw in COVID, we saw the rise of Newsmax. We saw the rise of OAN.
Yes.
To counter this narrative that was out here, this dominating narrative. And look where they're at today.
Newsmax they're scooting along.
Yeah, they are. And so I think that we could jump on that same track of becoming a dominant leading voice here in Oklahoma. I would say even if we're not on television, on the local news, because most people are streaming right now.
They are.
And
they
still,
are,
it makes a big impact.
You still have to get rural Oklahoma. You do that.
You can't discount it.
I'm not telling you about
you
your strategy.
You can't discount it. No.
Yeah, no, you do your own strategy, but however you do it, I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And so we're not doing the website, but get ready because next week potentially, if not September 1st,
right?
People are going to be able to. So all of those folks that put a Jake Merrick sign in their yard, or actually any of these candidates would want to be a part of the colony.
We have some great ones people still need to get out and support, like James Taylor for superintendent,
right.
Marty Quinn running for insurance commissioner, Kevin West for labor commissioner. These are just solid, proven conservatives that, man, you've got to get out, show up and vote. The future of the state really depends on it.
Well, let's shift gears for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't want to take your whole day, Jake.
But I can sit here all day.
But I want to cover just a few more things. I want to talk about. So when we had coffee Wednesday morning, we were talking about a potential endorsement. So it's already out there, but I mean, I want to talk through that because you had something on your heart that you shared with me that morning. Said, Rob, if I'm going to endorse one of my opponents, I want to do it in a big way. I want to tell people exactly, which is what you did. You put out a 20-minute video or something like that, telling all the reasons why you came to the conclusion, probably through much thought and prayer.
Yeah.
You came to that conclusion. But for me, I served with Mike Mazie for a few years. For me, the decision was easy long ago, but that's neither here nor there. To be honest with you, in the primary, well, we won't go to where my family voted, but anyway, because we have a runoff going on now. Right. But anyway, Mike Mazie, when it came to the runoff, for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And Mike is, I fully endorse Mike. Everybody knows that. I put it on my social media. And you made that decision Wednesday. Tell us, and you've already done it. I'll put a link to the video so that people can watch your whole rationale. But in a nutshell, how does a conservative like you come to the conclusion that Mazie is the guy?
Yeah, it's not something I took lightly.
I know you didn't.
I gave it a lot of thought and prayer. I knew a long time ago that I aligned with Mike.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And honestly, on the campaign trail, I got to know Gettner Drummond, and as a person, I got along well with him.
Yeah,
and
I got along well with him.
We had.
He's done some good things. To be honest with you,
he has, and I mentioned that in the video I put out. So my goal was never to slander or bash or mudsling or all of that kind of stuff. That's just not my approach. I want to focus on the solution, the positive, and at the heart of my conflict within about how to go about this was everything my campaign represented, which was the counter to the status quo, the way politics is traditionally done.
The big money.
Right.
It's all about. It's always about the money.
I was following the election, which is still going on in Colorado. Victor Marx was a big name out there challenging the stronghold, the liberal stronghold out in Colorado. And it'd be interesting to see if he can pull it off.
Yeah.
But they were talking about he was the leader in fundraising out there with $2 million. And I'm like, $2 million? I said, all the other candidates blew that away a long time ago.
I
So
know.
there's so much money in here.
I
And
don't know why so much money in Oklahoma. Actually, I'm a little confused. Actually,
I don't know why either. But, I don't even know where people are at as far as Maisie and Drummond, how much money they've raised to date.
Tons.
It's just crazy how much. And so my conflict there is everything my campaign represented, and I wanted to honor my supporters who got behind me.
For sure.
And I didn't take that lightly. It was not just a campaign slogan or anything like that. I truly meant everything I did this last year, literally gave everything for this campaign, for this cause. And so I don't want it to appear as though I'm just like flippantly dismissing that. Oh, now we'll jump on with the establishment.
Right.
Not to call Mike establishment, but that's how it can appear.
Sure.
And so I think how this is presented is very critical to maintain the momentum that we have. The people that finally got re-engaged, I want them to stay engaged.
They must.
They have to.
Because we're going to end up with a governor.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not Jake Merrick.
Right.
But don't take your toys and go home.
Right.
And
We have to vote.
have to
I'm
vote.
voting. I wanted the people to know I'm voting. And I have to look at the two candidates and base it on principle. Who aligns most with the principles I value, that I believe are those eternal principles, those God-given principles. So when I looked at everything, because some people are basing this on one issue. The people in Inola, it's a one issue.
Yeah, I don't understand
campaign.
that, but and I don't know if we want to get deep into that, but that one baffles me a little bit.
Right. On some
But
level,
if I was on Inola,
on some level, I can
wouldn't
understand
be,
that.
It probably
right.
wouldn't be baffling to me.
So this is not a one-issue campaign for me. There's a lot of important
there's
things
a
that have to
ton.
happen.
Oh.
For me, one of the leading things is how do we restore families? How do we protect children that I believe are being targeted by our child welfare system? That's a hot spot for me. And
Have you talked to Maisie about that
I have.
issue? Okay.
Talking to Maisie, he's very interested in reform.
Okay.
He's invited me to be part of that conversation. No positions, promises. There's lots of that conversation
You're
out
too
there.
busy for a position.
I'm not.
But to have you there on a board or something
Yeah.
to help with this would be huge.
Well, I'll tell you, both Drummond and Maisie have both told me if they are elected, they'd love to sit down and talk with me about my ideas for DHS reform. So that's come from both camps.
Right.
And I've offered specific details to Maisie saying, okay, this is what, along with a few others that are working on DHS reform, saying this is a path forward for true reform. So that's a hot spot for me. Tax reform is critical. As a true fiscal conservative, I would love to see the property tax eliminated.
It should be eliminated, to be honest with you.
Right. I would love to see.
I'm the attorney that represented the no property tax at the Oklahoma Supreme Court this year. Very
Yeah.
proud of that. I hope it goes our way. But at some point in the future, whether it's Governor Maisie or who it is, at some point the pressure is going to come too great. People are sick and tired of the never-ending escalation of property tax. It's not
100%.
just that there's a property tax.
Yeah.
Like if it was reasonable, I'm telling you, it's becoming unreasonable for a lot of families.
True theft, and
It's another
forcing
house payment.
people.
It's another house payment for many people.
Exactly.
You own a
forcing them
three-bedroom
out of their
home.
homes.
You own a three-bed. I've got a person in my family, close, immediate, family member, young family with a bunch of kids. I think I got 5 kids. It's a mixed family. And I was talking to the dad here the other day, actually been a couple months ago, and he saw where I was, working at the Supreme Court, and he applauded me, and he goes, "Here, I want to show you something." They got a modest, nice, but very modest, 3-4 bedroom house in the north side. Nothing fancy, not a gated community, just nice. It's the size of house they need for that family. There would be cheaper, I'm sure, but it's not expensive.
Right.
His property, he didn't realize how much his property tax was till he paid off his home, which what an amazing feat that he was able to pay his home off. So he got this bill. $4,500 for a simple 3-4 bedroom house with a small family. He's not rich.
Yeah.
That's another house payment.
Right.
That is confiscation, because at some point, if he has struggles and can't pay that, they take his house.
Oh yeah.
So it's not even his house, really.
No.
That's the pay. That's the blood money he has to give to make sure the government doesn't take his house.
And that's the heart of the issue is true property ownership. if we don't own our property,
Yeah.
as long as we're paying rent to the government. That's
Right.
so. I
Sorry,
believe
I
in that.
digress. It's obviously their passion for
I
both
know,
sides.
and I am too. I always say, and I said this throughout my campaign, that until we get serious about eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse and reducing the size of government, which I think we're going to have a hard look at all of these agencies, first say, do they need to exist at all? If they do need to exist, can we scale them back? Until we get serious about that, tax reform is just rhetoric.
Yeah,
I mean, it is going to depend on the legislature. And I don't think they have an appetite for it.
Well, the bills are, and this is not to slam any legislators or senators or anything else,
Yeah.
but a lot of the bills you see are around taxes are a lot of politics.
Yeah.
When you really read through them and you study them and you figure out how much they really impact the taxpayer, a lot of times they're not. And I get it because I was there. Mm-hmm. So some years you're like, well, we don't have the money because we're not willing to cut this other stuff. Right. So until you're willing to take a scalpel over here, you can't really give a true tax cut here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I support his effort to eliminate the property tax. Actually, his is to eliminate it for seniors
and veterans.
And veterans. And so I support that. It seems like Drummond has been less motivated in that area, you could say. I mean, I think that he favors government and wants to make it more efficient. It's something I highlighted in my video.
I would think he would, yeah.
He wants to make it more efficient. My question is not about if we should make it more efficient, but should this exist at all? Because you could take a bad agency and make it more efficient. It doesn't mean it needs to exist. So let's come back to the more fundamental question. And that's where I'm at, is just a, I won't say it, the F word, the ultra-right conservative.
Well, I want to talk about that just a minute. And this is not intended, so I'm sure the mail pieces are coming out and everything to trash Drummond, General Drummond, on this comment. I want to take it from a different angle.
Right.
So, and I agree with you. I don't like trashing people. Before the primaries, I had a few guests on that, they get and I get it. I respect passion.
Yeah.
I respect people, their position. So I'm not going to argue against them. I'm just saying I like to take a different, more pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
So when I hear that comment, which I think was made in honesty, I think it was an honest comment.
Yeah.
It was a Freudian slip, if you might say. But I think it was an honest comment from the heart. And that's a problem. It's a big, big problem because it is what the left does.
Mamdani.
Anyway, you call him a communist. Well, he says he's a communist.
Right.
You're not calling him a name.
Yeah.
You're acknowledging. And communist doesn't have the same reputation. Yes, we've had the Maos, the Stalins, and all of those that murdered millions of people, but not in the name of communism necessarily. You can separate the two. Mm-hmm. Fidel Castro, communist, but I don't think it has the same stigma. The left loves stigma, so I always like fascism is Hitler. Mm-hmm. I mean, he wasn't invented by Hitler; it was invented by Mussolini, but nobody knows that.
Yeah.
When you say fascist, you think the Holocaust.
Right.
You think Hitler. So that name carries with it some baggage that the left loves.
Yeah.
They want to say that Jake Merrick killed Jews. They want to say that Jake Merrick hates people of color, they want to make that fascist term mean so much more than a government, economic model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe there is an economic model under the word fascism, but nobody thinks about that. So it's a horrible, horrible, horrible name to call anybody. Probably even a horrible name to call somebody that believes in fascist governance, which conservatives do not, by the way.
No.
If you look at the economic model, we don't believe in that. We don't believe the government should control industry, which is the basics of that model.
Right.
Is that the government goes in, they don't own it like socialism. They don't own the means of production, but they control the means of production.
Yeah.
And that's what Hitler did. So, but to use that name should eliminate him from being elected, because that name, I think it came from an honest place. And if you believe that,
it's very concerning.
If you believe that half or 3/4 of Oklahomans align themselves in any remote fashion with Hitler, that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to have the same impact, and has had the same impact, as Hillary Clinton's deplorable comment.
It should. It should. And
I mean,
one's not as bad.
No, well, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that true conservatives across the state suddenly are very offended.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be, because I think it came when you watch the video. And again, this isn't meant to trash the general. It isn't.
Yeah.
Because I think it came from an honest place.
Yeah.
I think the left has said that so much that it's been sanitized, as if it doesn't mean what it means.
Right.
But it does. Jake,
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody in this state, not one single person, even if they believed remotely in the economic model underlying that they would even in their wildest dreams associate themselves with Hitler or fascism.
Right.
So it's a sad comment. I want to get it out there because I think it came from an honest place. I think it disqualifies him as governor. I honestly do. It doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It means he thinks about people in the wrong way. These are the majority of Oklahomans. The majority.
That's it.
We'll see with the colony, with your voters, prove it. With no money, you got 60,000 votes. So, I mean, anyway, we can go on to something else, but I did want to touch on that because I just think it really bothers me that is used so loosely.
Yeah, I agree. It came out very freely in his conversation.
It's a Freudian slip, is what it is.
And honestly, I would love to hear his explanation of that.
I haven't heard it yet.
What is in your mind? What do you envision when you envision a far right conservative in Oklahoma?
Everybody probably has a little racism, including
it's
black
not
people.
Something that's accepted by the majority, or even
you have to overcome it if you have it, because it's not appropriate, and DEI is not helping any. But anyway, so if we want to, so we covered Maisie. Thank you so much for doing that. By the way, it means a lot to me that you would tell your voters who you're voting for. And that you would not shy away from what's really important.
Right.
The next governor of Oklahoma.
I believe he is a principled guy.
I know he is.
I've sat down with him and his wife. My wife and I have had a one-on-one with him and his wife. And of course, I've been with him on the campaign trail many times. And, people get hung up on his presentation.
Yeah.
But he even acknowledges, it's like, that's not my strength.
It is.
And here's the thing, is that we've made politics about a celebrity.
Yeah.
And it's really about what happens when nobody's looking.
It's the best hairdo, which is what costs you points.
Exactly.
You're right, though. It's very superficial sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And so I don't get hung up on that. When I have a conversation with him, he's sincere. He really wants to see transformation in Oklahoma. He seems to be proving that with these conversations he's having with people like myself concerning DHS reform. I know he's talking to others about true tax reform and different areas where he wants to have a plan in place. So if he is elected, he can activate that and move forward with it. So that says a lot to me that he's not just talking, he's already putting things together to put that into action if he's elected. So that says a lot. I think we align on life, on his pro-life position, on education. I like that he's very aggressive there.
He's very pro-school choice. Very pro-school choice.
Yeah. So there's just many things. I don't agree with him on everything. I still have a lot of questions about the smelter plant.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm completely for it or against it, but I'm saying I do want to listen to the locals who are very concerned. But I see conflicts of numbers and stats, and
so I've got. It's okay that this goes on the video. I served with Mike for quite a few years.
Yeah.
I think the world of Mike Maisie. He'll tell you, I'm sure, admit to this if he remembers. I think he probably does. We didn't start off on the best. We're kind of similar. We're both successful folks. We're both business people. We didn't start off on the best of feet, but we ended up stepping in stride together because he's a great guy and we think a lot alike.
Yeah.
But one thing that I would say that I hope Trump's not watching this because I'm going to say something that he's going to have a hard time arguing with. If he were in the legislature today and that vote came up to give an incentive to a foreign company to come to Oklahoma, I don't think he would vote for it. I really don't. But I think probably what he's saying is they've already done this.
Yeah.
The legislature's already done it.
This is a point we have to drill in, is that all of this conversation we're having right now should have happened last year.
Right, correct. So
everybody's too late to the party. I mean, this was passed in May of 25.
So I voted when I was in office. I voted against I don't know where you were, so I don't want to, compare test scores. But I voted against every incentive. I drove people crazy.
Yeah. Panasonic, I was opposed to that whole project.
Oh, that was the worst. And so that was even worse because of the company. But even if you were okay with incentives, but in fact, our good friend David Bullard, Senator Bullard, he always gives me a hard time about. he's going to name a bill one day, the Standridge ROI bill, because every time a senator would stand up on the floor and talk about incentives and ROIs with other people's money, it just drove me crazy.
Right. Yeah.
We're only spending $1 million of your money to get these jobs over there.
So can we talk about Canoe?
Yeah. So Maisie, I think he has a good shot. I hope he gets in there. I think he'll do a fantastic job. So we talked about some other races going on. Marty Quinn.
Yeah.
I had him on yesterday, so I should have his podcast out. Win with Quinn, as I say. Marty is a awesome, I don't know his opponent, to be honest with you, but I know Marty Quinn. And there's not a better man in the nation for this job. And so I think it's I said this about Darrell Weaver when he got made sheriff in Cleveland County. I said, I can't, I know you lost or you didn't move forward, but maybe God had this all the way along, because I can't imagine a more qualified person for the sheriff of Cleveland County than Darrell. The bigger question I told Darrell is, should you have been senator? I'm just kidding. He was a great senator, but I mean, he's much more qualified as sheriff. But I say the same thing about Marty Quinn. Marty Quinn is just unbelievably qualified. And the fact that he took time out of his life to go back to where his family's from, Arkansas, and take care of his family, to use that against him. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they've been using that against him. Is bizarre beyond belief. What if you had ailing in-laws and parents, Jake? I know at a drop of a hat, you'd be back to Alaska or New York or Arkansas, wherever it is.
If anything, that's a strength of his. He would go and be with his family.
I think anybody watching this that's thinking about that issue, that should make you vote for Marty Quinn. Because he's going to treat you as a citizen of Oklahoma underneath the insurance department with that same. You know him. His heart is big. Was you there when he was there, or were you?
I served with him. Yeah,
that's what I thought. So you saw this on the floor. He has such a huge heart.
Oh, he does.
And it's real.
Yeah,
and he will service those people, the citizens of Oklahoma, as insurance commissioner, probably at almost the same level as he went back and took care of his parents,
and
his wife's parents.
I mean, the word that comes to my mind with Marty is genuine. I think he's just the most genuine guy.
He is,
and who he is when one-on-one. That's who he is behind closed doors.
Exactly.
I mean, so I fully support him. I think he's going to do a great job.
I think so too. And so that's insurance commissioner. Labor commissioner. I had Kevin West on a couple days ago. Again. I guess I do know his opponent some. John is a nice guy. I serve with him as well. But Kevin is, immensely qualified. Labor commissioner, always people are like, fine, make sure my elevator's good, whatever. But it is a big job. People just don't realize it.
Right.
And I think you've. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you support Kevin. But if you don't, it's no big
for sure.
Okay.
No, I do. He was actually, when I was getting into politics, he was one of the first people I've talked to.
Oh, really?
Just because somebody introduced him to me, but I've been connected to him for a while.
Okay.
And just watched his leadership in the House. I think he just continued to rise, leading by example in authoring and supporting great conservative
voting
legislation.
with conviction the entire time.
Exactly. So he's a true conservative. He proved it in his voting record. So I'm fully behind him.
Yeah, Kevin would make a great labor commissioner, great family, Goldie West. That's a great family. And so I think one of the bigger races in the state, besides Maisie Drummond race, is the superintendent.
Yeah.
We had my friend Ryan Walters was superintendent, but they're still burning him in effigy, I think. I think Ryan tried really, really hard, and I think for him it was like banging his head against the wall. I think he had a rough tenure there, to say the least. Yeah. And so, but we have another good friend that's running, James Taylor, JT. If you don't know anything about the race, just remember you love Carolina on My Mind. You love James Taylor, the singer, so just vote for him, because sadly, a lot of voters vote because the name's cool, and he's got a cool name. So
he does.
James Taylor is a great name. If you don't study it, just remember the name James Taylor. Yeah. But so I did ask you before, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I believe you support James Taylor, right?
Yep, I do. I'm actually on a board with him for a nonprofit.
Okay.
That does amazing work, Earthly Dwellings over in Chickasha. So I've gotten to know him very well through that. I saw him and his wife adopt 2 children, one special needs with autism.
He has special needs, yeah.
And you see their heart for kids is, top tier. Of course, he's an active teacher, and you hear him talk about how he connects with his students. His
how
heart
would
for
you
kids,
not want him as your superintendent when he talks about that?
Yeah. So people may criticize him on a number of fronts, but he's qualified. He's more than qualified.
Oh, for sure.
Just in his heart for not only students but their parents. I love the story he tells about how he would call the parents of his students and say, "I want to talk to you about your child." Well, what would you think if your teacher called? I mean, immediately you're going to the worst.
Get in here, boy.
Yeah. but he calls them and just lets them know that they're doing great.
Yeah.
He believes in them. And then what does that do for the home life? All of a sudden it changes the home life.
Yeah.
And now the parent believes in the kid and has pride in their kid. I mean, so those kind of small touches are big touches.
I never even would have thought of that. Sadly, I feel like
great.
I'd be a bad teacher. Maybe I would be. But I mean, who would think to call? I mean, that's such a good idea.
Right. It is.
It shows his pastor's heart, by the way. Like
it does.
you.
As a pastor too, so he has, I would say he has a lot of the same values as Ryan Walters. And I think Ryan Walters will forever represent everything that the left hates.
Right.
And mainly because he was so vocal about it and in their face.
Right.
And so while I think that James Taylor believes a lot of the same core things, has the same core values, his approach is very different.
Oh, for sure.
He's a different person. His approach is different. He will sit at the table and he'll listen and have a different approach to, teachers and other superintendents and things like that. So I feel very comfortable with him at the helm of the state of education here in Oklahoma.
I do too. And you have, so JT, people have been watching the controversy about Mr. Franklin. And I don't think they realize that JT himself has a special needs child.
Yeah.
You have a special needs child.
Right.
I do not. I'm not an educator. I've not been trained. So these incidents. So we have a mom from 10 years ago or something like that that's come forward complaining about how her child was treated by JT's opponent. And I thought about that before I wanted to say anything. I haven't really said anything about it. This is the first time because I've been thinking about it. I'm not an educator. I've not been trained. But I hear that and I read about the school he was at previously, and I just think seems to be a lack of either skill or putting the right things in place to deal with those situations.
Right.
When he was at the school in the 80s, he was there all the way up almost till it was closed for abuse. But yet he, as a teacher there, never reported any abuse. And you might not think anything about that until you come to this recent case. I say recent, 10 years ago. And again, I don't want to slam Mr. Frank. I don't know.
Sure.
It's a qualification issue for me. It's not about the individual cases. It's like you need somebody that's superintendent that's going to hold people accountable. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't hold them accountable in 1985,
right?
Because we have. I always say this even during the teacher walkout, teacher strike. Most of our teachers are amazing. I always say that. I always preface it because I don't want to be caught in the corner saying, well, you're saying everything. No. There's bad teachers. There's bad pharmacists. There's bad doctors. There's bad psychiatrists.
Yeah.
There's bad pastors.
Yep.
There's bad because we're human. We're broken. We're fallen.
Yeah.
So, and some teachers may not necessarily be bad. They're just not qualified to be where they're at. And that's, I think, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because this position, more than anything else, for me as a parent, I have children in public schools. They have to be held accountable. Teachers, superintendents, principals, and JT described it the other day at this debate as pass the trash. And that sounds really bad. I should come up with another phrase. But anyway, it's finding a bad teacher.
Yeah.
And instead of reporting them and dealing with it, you just move him to a different school.
Well, and it is a very as far as pass the trash.
I don't like that, but I understand.
But at the same time, it's like these people who are targeting our children in our schools. Trash is a pretty good word for it.
Did you hear what happened in Fort Smith? Did you?
No. Huh?
So they had a teacher out east somewhere that had been caught either sexting or even like physically, touching girls or whatever. They let him go, but didn't do anything on his record, nothing. He went and murdered 2 people in Fort Smith.
Wow.
But you never see it on the news.
Wow.
And so the news is complicit as well, but we can't have our superintendent complicit. So I look back at that 80s session and I say, okay, You're there 5 years. It was closed because of abuse. I mean, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of instances with 500 or 600 people suing them. Not two, not one.
This is systemic, right?
It's a systemic abuse.
Yeah.
And not one report has his name on it. And you think, okay, well, he feels like he's, doesn't need to do that. It's his colleagues or whatever. Because nobody's saying that he did anything. But he's vying for a position that accountability for parents is the most important thing with the passive trash and everything that he can. That's his, in my opinion, that's his primary responsibility, is to make sure when a complaint about a teacher comes to him, he holds them accountable.
Fundamental.
And we've had the board already reverse accountability as soon as Ryan was gone, by the way. And so we know that there's a tendency there to protect your own.
Yep.
It's the same with lawyers, with doctors, with anybody else. That sometimes you have a tendency to protect your own.
Yeah.
And so that's no different there. So he has to be the grown up in the room and say, you know what, maybe that's not the worst thing that teacher could have done, but they're not good enough to be in Oklahoma schools.
Right. Well, it's been shown to be rampant throughout the state, so much more prevalent than I was aware of. I think, former Representative Sherry Conley's done great work in that area,
that's right. And she's a former educator.
It's a passion point of hers is the corruption in our public school that's being hidden and protected and just letting them move on without consequences. So it's got to be corrected, and it does raise a legitimate concern. You do of if it's already a problem, and he already has a history of not addressing that problem, then
not reporting.
It is. Yeah, this is not a good fit. Let me speak to the broader issue that we experienced. You mentioned I had a special needs child. We adopted out of DHS. And so my oldest daughter, before adopted, went through tremendous abuse. She still is healing from that,
Her whole life.
Her whole life, yeah. And she's made tremendous headway. And we think her future is very, very bright. But there's been major hurdles she's had to overcome. Deep emotional, mental trauma. And so we went to one of the top-rated schools in the state for special ed, for special needs children.
Okay.
And they ended up telling us, you're going to have to remove your child because we can't help her. And what that told us is many, if not most, of Oklahoma schools are not equipped and ready for special needs, not ready for kids suffering trauma, which is rampant throughout the state.
Sadly.
So we need... I've always said our special needs teachers are our heroes. I want to invest in them.
I can't imagine doing that. They are, for sure.
Yes, and so I want to invest in them, better pay, better support. But we need to help all of our teachers and staff, everybody understand trauma and know how to deal with it. The recent allegation of Franklin grabbing the child by the ears and scraping
about a decade ago. So it's fairly recent in my mind.
Yeah, it's still...
You got the 80s incident where no reporting. Then you have fairly recently.
Yeah.
And so I heard this, and that's why I was slow to talk about it, because I'm thinking, you grab a kid by the ears, you leave scratches, wounds. She's more, the mom calls it worse than he calls it, but either way, it definitely injuries.
Right.
But the basic tenet is, whether it scratched him or not, I'm thinking what manual, what training led somebody that's their specialty.
Yeah.
They know I don't. Maybe grabbing ears is one of the mechanisms.
Well, I'll tell you, from the years of therapy we've been through with our daughter, that is not what you do. We had an incident. We were pastors.
You don't grab. I would imagine, if anything, I don't know what.
Some would recommend, hugging them and until they relax.
Okay.
Obviously, not squeezing the air out of them, but just containing them so they don't hurt themselves or others.
Right.
So there are some restraint tactics you can have to keep them contained. We were pastors at a church in Tulsa, and there was a special needs kid there that got triggered, was in the hall throwing trash cans, just out of control. And some gentlemen from our church doing security, they came over and they were attempting to restrain him. My wife, having gone through all the training and everything, comes over and says, "Gentlemen, back away." So she got them to back away. She comes and sits down on the ground with the kid. He sits down next to her and he calms down. So there's some things you can do. That doesn't work in every situation.
But you should. But it sounded like, this was an instinctual thing that he did.
Yeah.
That that shows, when you combine it with the 80s, I think shows some of it. I don't know. I don't think he's going to hold anybody accountable. I really, really don't. That's my biggest concern.
Right.
And then it shows a lack of judgment with the ear thing. And
here's what we would love to see with more politicians is be honest and humble. And if you made a mistake, admit to it. You know,
well, he did on that.
But
he doesn't address the 80s thing at all. He says he knew nothing. I don't see how that's possible. You're there 5 years, during the absolute 5 years when there was rampant abuse. Yeah. And again, I'm sure he's not. I don't think he abused. I mean, I would never. I'm not even wanting to imply that at all.
Yeah.
But why is not his name on any reports of reporting what's legally obligated, the abuse?
Right.
And so, what is he going to do now when he finds a teacher that's been sexting a kid or has been looking, doing things wrong? Because that's the problem we have.
Yeah.
Is these idiots get in there and they abuse our kids. And so
with no accountability.
Is he going to be a condoning pass the trash? Is he going to? I don't think he's got the stomach for it. I don't think he's going to go in there. I think JT's going to fire him if he has to. And I think JT's going to say, you know what, you're going to have to take a break from teaching till you get counseling and get past whatever. So I just think the accountability for parents out there and voters ought to be the number one issue.
100%.
I think James Taylor is the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just put a bow on what I was just saying too. Is I'm not accusing him of abuse either on the child with the scratches behind the ears, but I'm just saying I think across the board, all of our teachers need to be better trained and equipped to deal with trauma and kids that are triggered in classrooms. Because from our experience, that is the last thing you do is grab a kid by the head, grab them at all. Usually you clear the room, give them space to let them calm down.
Yeah.
So I think across the board, all of our schools need better training in that area. And when you're talking with someone who has a history like it looks like he may have, you have question marks around his leadership in that particular area.
Yeah.
So but I don't know a whole lot about Franklin. What I do know is James Taylor.
Yeah.
And so really, regardless of whoever was running, I was supporting James Taylor anyway because I think he's a great leader.
I agree. I think James Taylor, when you hear him talk about his servant's heart and his pastor's heart about how we care for the districts and for the state.
Yeah.
I don't see how anybody would not want somebody like that there. So I'd say vote for James Taylor to be a great superintendent.
Yeah.
So I think we covered the races. Let's see. I think that's about it, man. Thankfully, I think Attorney General didn't have a runoff, so John Eccles is down in Costa Rica now, just relaxing. Because I'm just kidding, but I'm sure he's getting ready for his general election. But we didn't have to have a runoff there, and so we talked about the big one, the colony. That is the biggest thing, and so we're on pins and needles until hopefully we can have like a more brief interview on the launch.
Yeah, no, I'd love to,
because I'm serious. I would love to sponsor and help maybe build some momentum to get those initial 58,000 or 500 subscribers going, so this project gets off the ground.
Yeah,
and then and Mike Maisie's your second big announcement. It's huge that you're going out and endorsing and encourage your supporters to. Don't sit on the couch. Don't stay out of the game.
Right.
Stay in the game.
Yep.
And any other thoughts? Any other things that we didn't touch on, Jake?
No, honestly, I think that covers it. The things that are on my mind too. Just encouraging people, really reminding people that government begins in your home. And this is my message everywhere I go: is it starts with self-governance, and then it starts with your family. And ensure that both of those are well kept. Even in church politics, it says you're not fit to lead a church until you can take care of your own family.
True that, yeah.
And so let's start there. Let's start locally with our communities and be engaged there, and let that just spiral out into the larger domain of the state and the nation.
And just stay engaged.
Yeah.
Get out there and vote, and get ready for the colony. And
It's
keep
coming.
following Jake. Now, Jake, we didn't mention it. People know, I'm sure. I have the graphic of there. Jake for the state. This is your podcast, right?
Right. Yeah. Jake for the state. Mm-hmm.
How often do you do? You're probably slowed down right now with the colony and everything, all this stuff.
Right.
But what is your normal schedule? When do you release one? Is it once a week? Once a
so
month?
I typically like to get 2 or 3 out a week.
Oh, a week,
but
okay.
it's been about 1 every 2 weeks. Honestly,
I don't think people realize that you've been trying to get this project launched. So.
Well, and honestly, there's been some delays on my releases because I wanted to release them on the colony.
Okay.
And I decided to go ahead and release some interviews until we get it ready because I wanted people to hear the interview with Drummond and hear the interview with Maisie. But we have one coming with James Taylor, Kevin West, Brad Bowles, who won Corporation Commissioner.
Oh, yeah.
So it sat down with him. And then even Russell Fincher, who was the target of the ATF out in southeastern Oklahoma. They raided his home, took his guns.
Oh, wow.
Major story like 3 years ago, and I had a chance to sit down with him and get his story. Crazy story I want to bring here pretty soon. Then Cole Stevens, who won House District 51.
Right.
Big win there. And of course,
now his opponent's our friend
Yeah,
Cody Elliott,
exactly.
just so you know.
That was a hard race because I like both of them.
Yeah,
right?
I wasn't voting in there.
I didn't have to vote either.
I assume it probably was close, but I didn't follow it. I assume
It was close.
Yeah.
2 great candidates.
Yeah.
But I think Cole will do a good job. He's really leading the way in the trucking industry. His family, Stevens Trucking.
Okay.
He's been a leading voice in the non-domicile CDLs and the illegal immigrants driving these trucks down the road. So
with Senator Sacchieri,
they work together pretty closely. So
Kendall's done an amazing job in the Senate, by the way.
Yeah, she has.
And not as well as Senator Standridge, though. At least
exactly. Yeah, Lisa's been doing amazing.
With this whole podcast, I usually plug it, but she's done an amazing job. And Senator Sacchieri, they're good friends, and they both do awesome work there. So okay, so Jake State, it's still gonna exist though, right?
Yeah,
it'll
be one of the podcasts on the column.
On the column,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
So,
and what other projects are you down to those 2 now?
Yeah, pretty much. So
okay.
that consumes my days.
So, but you did mention one thing I meant to ask you a minute ago: the Oklahoma Rising.
Yes.
So was that was before you were running for governor, right?
Yeah, we did our first. They kind of worked in tangent together, Oklahoma Rising and then our campaign events. And I envisioned 2 rails of a train track going together because the Oklahoma Rising was really more focused on faith, on calling people back to the Lord, praying for the state.
Were you preaching at churches for that project?
Well, we really hosted our own events. So we would host them. Our first one was at the state capitol.
Okay.
We had a pretty good gathering there, and worship. I basically preached /
So you give a sermon.
Yeah.
Okay, a message.
And we did one out at Chickasha, one in Durant.
Okay.
And we intended to do it throughout the state, but it was just a lot to schedule all these events.
So do you have recordings of those?
I do, yeah.
Are they online?
I'll have to go pull them back up.
Well, the reason I ask is I think like you have enough projects for the colony, but I think something cool would be a documentary of your campaign.
Right.
And you would want to put that Oklahoma Rising as kind of maybe your radio show is the beginning, but
right.
That to me, that when you said that earlier, I meant to ask you about that. That sounds like a really, whether you're running for governor or not, it reminded me of the movie. I don't know if you've seen the Great Awakening movie.
Oh yeah, it's good.
That? Yeah. So it reminded me a little bit. Yeah. So I mean, you could kind of in that vein, talk about how you can get this colony going,
right,
through the process of your campaign. But anyway. It's been a great visit, Jake, and look forward to maybe next week or sometime just having a brief conversation about
the launch,
getting those subscriptions going.
I love it.
All right.
I love it. Thank you, Rob.
Been great. All right. See you, Jake.